Okay, let's see what this video is all about.
You just can't talk about ambitious consoles without talking about the OG PlayStation.
I mean, the history of it alone with Nintendo, in case you don't know, Nintendo wanted to make an add-on for the SNES that could play discs, I think, and they partnered up with Sony for that. I think there's still like 1 or 2 prototypes floating around somewhere of that like failed console, but they well, the deal fell apart, and that's why and Sony started developing the PlayStation instead. That's how it came to be in the first place, because of a failed deal with Nintendo.
A 32
I have one of those under my TV. Oh, you mean the classic PS1? Nice.
32-bit dynamo capable of jaw-dropping 3D graphics that could play CDs from a first-time console manufacturer. Yeah, it's almost miraculous to look back on this little wonder. I remember when I was young, and it seemed like pretty much every other week I'd play the kind of game on this that I didn't even know was possible. It was crazy, crazy times. But in an era of wild experimentation, it's a shame that nobody really looks back on these games and realizes how high they were actually aiming. It wasn't all for naught though. Sleep now. Go to sleep.
I have the mini PS1 at my parents' place. That's the one that's actually called PS1, but not with a 1, but like 1 is written out. PS, capital letters, and 1 in small letters. That's actually how the small one is called.
Given that it's the name of one of the game's job titles, Aquanaut Holiday,
Yes, Minox.
they could easily describe the events of Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, but this obscure PS1 game from around the console's launch has nothing to do with dragons or punching dudes in Hawaii or punching Hawaiian dragons in dudes. Well, developed and published by Art Dink of more recent Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake fame in Japan, with Sony Computer Entertainment publishing the game in the rest of the world, Aquanaut Holiday is the game that walked, or paddled, so that games like Subnautica could run, or swim, offering players a look
Minox, you have to play this. For history's sake. Because you like Subnautica, you have to play this game too.
into the world of 3D underwater exploration. Granted, there's no terrors of the deep lurking here, so you're safe in that regard, but there are some similarities regardless. Despite being an overworked marine explorer, you decide to return to the water for a vacation after restoring harmony in the seas, which seems like the wrong way to get rid of job-related stress, but who are we to judge? Sorry, honey, just kind of up against it right now. Just gonna go and discover Atlantis this weekend to get away from it all. Anyway, with no obstacles or enemies in your path, the oceans are yours to explore fully, and even though Aquanaut's Holiday is one of the first released PS1 games, the graphics here are some of the best on the console, despite, some obvious draw distance issues.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, this, for a PS1 game, this looks pretty good. And it was one of the first ones, and it has an open world, basically. Okay, draw distance, Silent Hill did the fog, this game did, like, the water got very deep and, like, dark, whatever. But that is impressive, yeah, damn.
It was an ambitious effort from Art Dink to try and showcase what this new console could be capable of, and it even spawned a couple of Japan-only sequels. Now, I tried to come up with a segue.
Wait, what are the sequels then? Like, even better graphics, or... I love the Doom poster back here, by the way. Empire of the Dead. Why is that comic? Because Night of the Living Dead, of course, got the sequels that are all called something of the Dead. But there are also some comics, and I think one of them, that might be this one, is based on what George A. Romero was planning for another sequel movie before he passed away. That's cool.
For this next game, but I couldn't think of anything. Talk about a missed opportunity. Trying to release.
Okay, if that was PS1, that looks super impressive, but it's pre-rendered, right?
A super serious point-and-click adventure game that...
But I mean, graphically, it looks super, super good for PS1. It's just all pre-rendered, but it looks super good. Like, the Resident Evil, backgrounds are also pre-rendered, and, well, at least the first game doesn't look as good as this. The third game, I would say, is on a similar level. When did this come out, by the way? 1997, so before Resident Evil 2 and 3. And it already looked like this. That is super impressive.
Wasn't Monkey Island or Broken Sword on consoles in the 90s felt like a bit of a fool's errand. Regardless of how good the game was, console fans often wanted something a bit faster, and the controls needed for a proper point and click were usually lacking. That didn't stop Sunsoft from taking on the project of porting Cyan's Riven, the sequel to Myst, to the PS1. Myst was already a pretty expansive and ambitious point and clicker, and Riven turned that dial even further with larger environments and tougher puzzles, but somehow Sunsoft pulled it off. True, some sacrifices and compromises were made along the way in order to make the PS1 port happen, with GameSpot at the time remarking that it's a fairly adequate port, albeit with worse graphics and controls. Perhaps the biggest sign of how ambitious the PS1 version was, though, was that it came on a whopping 5 discs. Multiple disc PS1 games on exactly
5 is insane. Holy shit. How big is that game? I've never played it.
uncommon, of course. Most of the Final Fantasy games launch with a few discs, but Riven's 5 discs is a console record, proving how big the project of porting the game to console was, and how ambitious Sunsoft were for undertaking it.
It's really big? That's crazy. Remember when GTA 5 was announced to be so big that it had to launch on 7 discs?
Feel a little like Kaiba while wielding those quintuple discs, and it's something you just never see today. Well, unless the arse physics in GTA 6 get really out of control. Now, would we choose to play Riven under our own volition on PS1 in 2025? Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. But still, the fact that they even tried to port this over was
Down with the hell, Orbital, what did you do?
ambition personified. Next up, these guys were nuts for this one.
Laura.
Not so big, only 7.5 gigs is massive for PS1 standards, holy shit.
Of adventure and interactive horror FMV that preceded Resident Evil, D was the first major release for the game's director Kenji Eno. Despite being
I remember, D is one of the games I've been wanting to play for a long time too.
released early in the PS1's lifecycle, FMV horror games have been around for a few years already. 1995 would even see the launch of Phantasmagoria, which would become one of the most renowned and infamous games in the genre, so D had a lot to live up to. The results were certainly worth it, largely due to the lengths director Kenji Eno was willing to go in order to ensure that D was a success.
Club Key, Resident Evil, remastered version is 30, that's... I mean, if the backgrounds are really, really crisp and pretty, I can see that happening. Like, that's just like a 3 times increase, right? Still kind of wild. Didn't they... Hey Phoebe, welcome. Didn't they know how to compress them better? Let me go grab my tea real quick, I'll be right back. I think it's full 3D now and runs in VR too. Okay, but that has the potential... Well, in VR, cool. Harpo, thank you so much for the 400 bits. Full 3D has the danger... Has the potential to look worse if they didn't do it properly. But VR is cool.
Game boasts impressive, for the time mostly, 3D graphics, with developer Warp referring to main character Laura as a digital actress who would appear in other games like the Dreamcast's D2. The gameplay is also somewhat open-ended, as you're given
D is PS1 and D2 is Dreamcast. Are they both exclusive to these platforms? Because that's so stupid.
2 hours to solve a mystery surrounding your father, otherwise the whole thing ends. A pretty unique setup. As for Eno's own ambitious tendencies, violence and cannibalism were added to make the game more striking, but he feared it'd force the hands of censors. Because of this, he sneakily created a clean master version which he submitted to censors late on. After passing the censors, he took the plane over to America and switched those copies with the uncensored versions, resulting in the gory D we know today. We love the D. Right? Well, some of us. Despite being a smash hit in Japan, there just weren't enough copies of D produced in the West, and it remains something of a cult hit for decades. You can actually go and get D on Steam right now, but quite annoyingly, right, if you go on your Chrome or your Opera search bar and you type in D Steam, it'll just come up with the DuckDuckGo results for Steam. And then, if you go to Steam and search D, then you'll get any game with the name D in it. Why didn't they simply see into the future and realise that this will be a problem in like 30 years? Are they stupid? If you want to check out the little freakazoid for yourself though, just go down in the description and I've pinned the link in there, no affiliate, anything like that. Right, let's give this next game a boost.
This doesn't look super impressive to me right now. The previous ones, yes, I can see that. But this one is just a skybox with like 3 characters on screen.
When it comes to PlayStation and ambition, Polyphony Digital are one of the studios that come to mind. The talented team behind the incredibly successful Gran Turismo series, you'd think that kind of notoriety would have given them a Midas touch as far as the PS1 was concerned, but after the release of Gran Turismo 1, Polyphony would have a go at creating something entirely different. The result, Omega Boost, has been given a bit of a retrospective upgrade in the year since its release, but reviewers weren't the kindest to Omega Boost when it first launched. They weren't harsh, but they could have been nicer.
Okay, look, I get why you put so many pictures on screen, because you want to illustrate some points. Everyone does that, right? I do that too. But at this point, it's so many that I don't even get to see any gameplay. Like, show me some gameplay as well, please. I want to see why this game is so impressive.
You know, feeling like a cross between Panzer Dragoon's on-rail shooting and the space dogfighting you'd get in a Star Wars game. The game's tale of dudes piloting mechs and travelling through time to stop the rise of AI is something we need more of right now. The gameplay is fast and frenetic, really putting the PS1 through its paces during the tail end of its life cycle, while the mech designs themselves came courtesy of Shoji Kawamori, who worked on the Macross series. Admittedly, Omega Boost is a short game, but the impressive graphics and stellar gameplay show how ambitious Polyphony were to not be known as just the Gran Turismo guys. I guess that didn't last.
Okay, if you have more like these giant ships and stuff, that looks cool. But it doesn't impress me like that much. It doesn't impress me as much as the previous one so far.
Of the cons of chasing racing games forever, I guess.
Oh, see, this has more going on. Like, it arguably looks worse, but it has more going on. Like, lots of 3D stuff. Lots of models that have to be loaded in. So this already looks more impressive to me than the previous one. Is she talking to the editor? Well, I'm commenting on the video.
Yeah, you could quite easily do a whole video just on like late era PS1 games that nobody saw, let alone played. I mean, I could even cram in my C12 references. Oh, wait a minute. C12. Good game. But it's crazy that like 67.1% of you guys watching this didn't even have the chance to play this next one. To be fair, it is pretty easy for most gamers to ignore your game when it didn't launch outside of Europe, which is what unfortunately happened to Terracon. It's surprising really, as the game was even published by Sony Computer Entertainment in Europe, but I guess Sony had little faith in the game's success in America or Asia. It's a shame really, as while the gameplay is just a 3D action platformer that was prolific during the PS1 era, it's the graphics that really showcase how ambitious Terracon truly was. Just look at the game in action and tell us it doesn't look like an early PS2 game. The character models in particular are among the PS1's
It says PAL right on the case, yeah, but that is just the PAL version, right? But apparently this game never came out outside of Europe.
greatest. Despite being a relatively normal action platformer, Terracon has a plot that had put War and Peace to shame. You're Zed, who's part of the Platonians, a race of aliens from...
Precisely my point. Isn't that normal for games, for European versions of older games to just say PAL because it's the PAL version? But there are no other versions. Like, but normally games come out in different regions and they just say different things. The European versions of games say PAL, but this one doesn't even have any other ones. This one only came out in Europe.
Pluto, shockingly, who also...
Yeah, NTSC is, I believe is US, yeah, but there is no NTSC version of this game. That is the criticism, that it never came out outside of Europe at all. NTSC never the same color. I'll either say PAL or European, but it's very rare for them to say European.
Overpopulation.
That's bad.
Because of this, Zed and his mate Doc create Terracon, a massive mothership able to help terraform the other planets.
Okay, you know what? That in the dark... Okay, it's very easy to make things in the dark look good because you have less light to play with, so, you know, you see less and thereby it kind of looks better. That's also the trick with movie CGI. When you see a movie and it's dark all the time, and it's full of CGI like monsters, whatever, and it's dark all the time, yeah, it's to hide the bad graphics. It's to hide the bad CGI, to not show as much, so it looks better.
To make Doc create Terracon.
And with that same kind of suspension of... Not suspension of disbelief, but like with that same kind of illusion in mind, this looks pretty damn good.
Massive mothership able to help terraform the other planets, and the project works.
That's good.
Unfortunately for the Plutonians, though, they fear the self-aware nature of Terracon, and in response to threats of being shut down, the ship annihilates Doc and the rest of the Plutonians.
That's bad.
At least Doc kept a hologram of himself with instructions on how to beat Terracon,
That's good.
but that involves travelling across planets, collecting drives, and activating missile defenses.
Wait, across planets? Different planets? Because so far I assumed it's just all the same planet. If it's different planets, that's really cool. I like space stuff.
Can I go now?
Yeah, it was ambitious of the devs to think people were going to sit through all that preamble. These guys were nuts. Wait, I already did that one.
Oh. Ooh, Vampire Hunter D I've also wanted to play.
Despite sharing an important letter and also being a story about vampires, D and Vampire Hunter D have absolutely no relation to each other. Anime and manga fans will already know, of course, that Vampire Hunter D is a classic of both mediums with a lineage dating over 40 years.
Okay, that's my personal pet peeve
Vampire
now.
Hunter-
As someone who is pretty perfectionistic when it comes to editing, these two pictures are not the same size. First up, they're not the same size and they're not on the same height. This one is ever so slightly higher over here, but noticeably higher down here.
D is a classic of both mediums with a lineage dating over 40 years at this point. Even though it's probably one of the more ridiculous properties in anime and manga history, bringing together genres and themes in its post-nuclear supernatural world, Vampire Hunter D has only ever had one video game.
This looks fun,
if
though.
you believe the reviews it received on launch, it's one of the worst PS1 games ever made. So what makes the game ambitious? It's not the story, as it's a streamlined retelling of the second movie called Bloodlust, with half the characters and locations removed. Where the ambition comes from is how it blended Resident
Wait,
Evil.
half the characters are removed and locations are removed? Then what's the point? What a movie is like, what, 1.5 hours long? The game ideally between 6 and 10 or so? What?
Starts above horror gameplay with hack and slash swordplay, with main character D preferring to tackle things with a blade than with guns. If that kind of formula sounds familiar to you, it's because Capcom were also about to strike it rich doing the same thing with Devil May Cry a couple of years later.
I like it sounds with me too.
Certainly a lot more
No, actually, just looking at the gameplay, it looks fun. I would like to play this.
clunky than DMC, Vampire Hunter D proved that if Capcom weren't going to do it themselves, someone was eventually. And it's a formula that has really caught on since, like a random illness from a child's birthday party every time. What kind of germs are these kids fostering out there?
I love that emote so much. Okay, now this... Oh, look, I'm sorry. The other games look... Now, seeing this, I see the other games and I'm like, oh, yeah, right, that's why they're impressive. Because this does not look impressive whatsoever. What is impressive about this game? Does it have, like, something like procedural or something... I don't know, some, like, crazy tech below the surface? Because graphically, it does not look very impressive to me.
PlayStation
Or like a super advanced AI or something?
was a console for experimentation. I mean, Net Your Rose games literally put the power of game dev in the hands of the consumer, but that doesn't mean actual game developers weren't creating some absolutely weird games themselves. Germs absolutely fits that bill, so much so that we've already talked about it here in our Weird PS1 Games Are Actually Good video, a video that's actually good that you should check out actually, but it's also crazy ambitious. An open world first person urban based survival horror game that's built specifically for the PS1, yeah, that is...
Wait, what?
An open world first person...
Open world first person...
An urban based survival horror game that's...
Urban based... Okay, open world first person survival horror game in a city. And the city looks pretty solid. Like, this looks fine to me.
built specifically...
With... Oh no, don't cut away. With a map, with an actual, like, GTA type map. That is a pretty big city as well. Okay, this is impressive. That's a lot of money. It's on my list. It's early PS1. How early are we talking? Because already seeing the size of this city, open world, it's survival horror. I wanna experience this.
For the PS1, yeah, that is a ludicrous undertaking, and yet somehow Germs managed to pull it all together.
Very early, so it also predates Resident Evil, definitely. So we have another early survival horror game that predates Resident Evil, I see.
Set in a city under attack by a mysterious infection and an influx of mutants, you play as a newspaper reporter striving to get to the bottom of things. You're able to explore the city by foot or via vehicles and public transport, and you're encouraged to speak to citizens and gather clues in order to find out more info. Meanwhile, as time passes, the city becomes more and more flooded with mutants, which forces you to fight in a lot of situations. Perhaps the most ambitious part—
That sounds so cool, though. You have like this mystery going on of what's going on, but as it goes along, as you progress, the city gets more and more taken over, and you have to fight more and more while still trying to figure out what's even going on. That sounds so interesting. What the hell? I want a remake of this.
How death isn't the end of the game, as if you die in combat, you actually turn into a mutant and can either find a cure or start your own rampage. That's pretty...
Wait, you also have... When you die, you also turn into one of those and it continues... That is so cool. What the hell? Okay. That is... I was already impressed just now. This is... They added a whole nother layer where you can either try to cure yourself as a mutant or just destroy everything too. What the fuck?
Sick. If you're a big fan of stuff like Pathologic and are wondering why more people don't rave about Germs, it was originally a Japan-only release. But the only limit you should have when it comes to this game today is how many times you're willing to click on a Google search result.
That sounds so cool. What the hell? 1999, okay. Same year as Silent Hill, so we got two kind of open world Silent Hill, open world survival horror games in the same year. That's cool. Why has no one made a remake? Yeah, I know, right? Well, I guess the game wasn't very popular, but I guess it depends on popularity, because with a remake you hope for money, right? But damn, that deserves a remake. Holy shit. That sounds so ahead of its time. Just under 8G? I found another just under 1G? Wait, what do you mean 1G?
So really?
Oh, grand. Oh, damn. Yeah, and when it comes to money, 1,000, I would write 1K. Okay. But it would make money now. Well, yeah, if they market it right. If they don't market it as this remake of this obscure game, but as this new game with this super cool open world game, yeah, this has potential. I also love the Memento Blu-ray here. What else do you have? Anything else I can make out? Not really. Like, this reads like Jarhead, but I don't know what that is, and the rest I have no idea. I love that you have Memento, though.
We probably need like some kind of special like Psygnosis entrance music or like a special animation, because they're on the channel all the time. That will happen when you crank out like 8 games a week, which they did at their peak. It is kind of hard to ignore them on the PS1, so let's look at just one of their series that have basically been forgotten. Spit on any list of the PS1's library of games, please don't do it to ours, they're good boys, and the odds are on any...
So you really decided to put that character there, which I guess is like a representation of you or something, while the game is literally just starting and I want to look at what is here.
Don't do it to ours, they're good
Come on, man. Come on. Sometimes you also have, when you do... Anyway, just put them on the other side or something.
And the odds are that he'll land on a Psygnosis whipper. And while they're mostly known for their work on Wipeout or even Raw Cage, one PlayStation series of theirs that's been lost to time is Colony Wars. A space fighting simulator, the first 2 games of the series told a fairly linear story about a war in the far-flung future between the Earth Empire and the League of Free Worlds, descendants of the settlers sent out of the solar system in a bid to obtain new resources. While the first game was ambitious in its own way, with the campaign being shaped by your performance during the game's missions, Colony Wars 3 Red Sun opened the game up further, allowing you to play the role of a mercenary. Here you were given control over the missions you wanted to complete, though obviously some were still story mandated, and could even upgrade your ship, something that wasn't allowed in the mission-based structure of the first 2 games. As I can't stop going like Dutch at the end of sentences. Sure, it's not quite Elite Dangerous levels of space simulation, but creating a PS1 version of that kind of idea is super ambitious regardless.
Okay, so it's like an open world space exploration thing. That's crazy.
Especially when Psygnosis launched 9 other games during the same year. Absolutely wild behavior. Right, it's showtime.
I feel like during this video, I don't see why some of these games are so impressive. I feel like if you make hugely ambitious PS1 games everyone ignored, I don't know. I personally would have also wished for an explanation of why these games are so ambitious. Like, he's done it for a few of them, but with others it doesn't feel like he does that, and that's a shame. Because with some of them, like, okay, I can guess with some of them, but like with some others, I just don't even know what's so crazy ambitious about them.
From one cultured vulture's old reliable studio in Psygnosis to another with Treasure. We're still a bit sad that this little wonder of a game didn't launch outside of Japan, especially considering it's one of the most gorgeous and well-realised games on the PS1. On a console where everyone was chasing polygon count above all else, Treasure, who marched to the beat of their own drum at the best of times anyway, utilised a hand-drawn with crowns aesthetic that's unlike anything that's come before or since, really. Even the first paper...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my man. Anything that's come since? You sure about that? Anything that's come since? The Legend of Bumbo literally has that kind of paper aesthetic as well. It's a puzzle game, it's a very different kind of game, but anything since is might be a little bit of a stretch.
Mario, which launched a year after Rakugaki, didn't emulate the hand-drawn visuals. Far from just being a new take on 3D graphics for the PS1, the gameplay is also completely unlike most video games, with the best summary being Power Stone if it was Dodgeball. Rakugaki Showtime boasts 17 playable characters, including a guest appearance for Marina Lightyears from Mischief Makers, and if given a wide enough release, this could have been up there among the best PS1 fighters. Sure, it's not that deep and the frame rate can be aggressive at times, but it's lovely to look at and has an aesthetic unlike much else really. Unfortunately, a legal dispute between Treasure and publishers Enix regarding who owned the rights to the characters meant it was yanked off shelves. Even worse still, Treasure were going to revisit the formula for a planned Tiny Toons game on PS2 and GBA, but the publisher for that release basically shat the bed before the game could be released. I'm over it though. I'm over it. Overblood 2.
I don't know, I guess it's just not my kind of game. It looks cool though, and it looks very unique for the PS1. In general, it's still to this day a pretty unique art style. That is cool. And I guess that's what's ambitious about it, right? The art style. That's cool. Okay, last one. I wish Steam had more of these true old school games. Yeah, but publishers have to care enough for that. Because they have some, right? Like the old System Shock is on there. The old Mist and Riven, I guess, also. Or he showed it earlier, the D game also is on Steam. I'm pretty sure Soul Reaver are also on Steam. I don't have any of them, but I'm pretty sure they're also there. Yeah, okay, it's a remastered. No, Soul Reaver 2, apparently I have it. The original Soul Reaver 2 is also on Steam, the 2001 one. You know, there are plenty of old games on Steam, but some publishers just don't care enough, and that's a huge shame.
You want to talk about ambitious PS1 games? Well, the original...
Or the original versions of the first Tomb Raider games are also on Steam.
Overblood definitely fits the bill, as it's considered by many to be the first fully 3D survival horror game ever made, while games like Resident Evil and others used pre-rendered backgrounds for their 3D. Reviews might have been mixed for it, but there's no denying that the original Overblood shot for the moon. Expectations were high for the sequel then, but when Overblood 2 launched as a cyberpunk action-adventure game instead of another survival horror game, you can believe that some were confused. We'd imagine
Resident Evil 5 be like... Resident Evil 5 ripped off Overblood 2, I see.
American gamers would have been confused too, but Overblood 2 was Japan and EU only for some reason. With a story that some would call a Final Fantasy VII clone following a group of freedom fighters battling a corrupt corpo looking to escape a dying planet, Overblood 2 might have been overshadowed at launch, and the reviews weren't too kind on the game's cutscene length either. Some cutscenes would clock in at around 10 to 15 minutes, which...
How long were the cutscenes in the first Metal Gear Solid games? in the first Metal Gear Solid game, the PS1 one.
For a modern game doesn't sound like a lot, but back then it was almost unheard of outside of Hideo Kojima's games. Does that mean it was any good? Well, you can check it out for yourself and be the judge, but the 3D cyberpunk world and lofty story certainly qualifies as ambitious. I'd say it's definitely at least worth trying. Now, I'm going to be ambitious and ask you to watch the entire outro, and you might get a prize. Ooh, outro gang, it's good to...
Okay, but what is ambitious about that game? Okay, it's full 3D, okay, cool. I guess there's a lot going on screen. It's a shame that he doesn't say what exactly is ambitious about some of these games. I bet Kingsfield is on here. 10 euros says it is.
See ya.
Wait, Kingsfield is on Steam? Oh, on this list. The list is over now.
How's your week been? To shred, you say? Oh my. I've got a double-pronged proposition for you. If, right, you guys can get us to 100k by the end of the year, I will unseal my sealed C12. It's got like a crack in it.
Okay, what's C12 about?
Really matter.
What is
And
C12?
I will do a full hairline reveal. It'll be like the arc from Indiana Jones opening. Ooh. Also, while you're here, let us know what other ambitious PS1 games that basically nobody played that you would recommend.
Actually, true, let's check out the comments. Also, I want to know what C12 is about.
Entertainment made this.
Oh.
So they're the dev, I think. They couldn't get a...
I guess you can't control the camera. This looks like the camera is being automatically controlled and kind of fucked up, which not surprising for a PS1 game, but shame that you couldn't control it, because the PS1 already introduced analog sticks throughout its life. It didn't have them in the beginning, though, so maybe it's an earlier one?
Anybody who knew how to make a third-person game can make this, I guess. It's fine. Do I have the key card? Key card required. Nope, no key card for me. Let's go find it.
Okay, let's skip ahead a little.
Dude. I kind of just want to be...
Kingsfield, that thing was downright revolutionary. The only reason Kingsfield is even remembered today is because it was made by the Dark Souls dev. It's like the first Dark Souls. That's how it gained notoriety these days, right? Yeah, see... The video was about ambitious games, not about influential ones.
Invincible, to be honest.
Also, arguably, it's Dark Souls that was the influential one and not Kingsfield. Kingsfield was just like one of the first steps towards that.
Take that melee guy. Why are you a melee guy?
Yeah, the camera looks super annoying.
What is this game? It is C12, the final resistance.
I see. What do the comments say? Do you have any other ones? Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman. Hugely ambitious game with a combat system way ahead of its time that used every button on that controller. Gameplay of Steel's Battalion. Is it PS1? Oh, I love that everything is marked with chapters. Oh. That looks interesting. What the hell? The Tekken type music. Love it. The person praised the combat system, right? This player doesn't seem to use it very much. It's just shooting as far as I can see. But graphically it's cool. Okay. Okay, let's see what you have to... Oh my god, I thought this was... On the first glance, this looked so wrong. I was about to say, what did you do to me? Okay, oh my god. It's a mecha fighting game. Bro, Tekken 3 exists. What two images? What about them? Wait, it came with actual figurines? That's cool, it came with actual figurines. The idea is that you get physical make parts that she puts together into a special dock that goes into the PlayStation. Ah, when you get damaged, you switch them out, but what is the gameplay point of that? Was the game supposed to recognize what you put in there, or it does? They all have unique codes that they plug into. Okay, there we go. There we go. That is the ambitious part. Okay, that is amazing. Okay, I love that. Arms, body, and legs each can be pulled apart and plugged into each other. I see. Okay, there we go. I love that. As long as the save file is tied to that configuration, so if you forget what configuration you have, you're locked out of the game file. I see. Damn. Okay, that's wild.